Greetings, mortal. Just when the gaming world had almost recovered from the lingering trauma of the original Steam machines, those bold, slightly bewildered living room PCs that arrived in 2015 to a chorus of polite applause followed by a deafening silence, the company has decided that what we truly needed in 2026 was an encore. Because nothing says, "we've learned from the past," quite like dusting off a decade-old brand name and slapping it on a shiny new console PC hybrid. One can almost hear the collective sigh of the industry. Here we go again. Back in November 2025, Valve emerged from its customary hibernation to announce not one, not two, but three pieces of new hardware. The Steam machine, yes, the very same name, apparently immune to market research, was to be the centerpiece, a very sleek, Steam OS-powered box promising 6 times the grunt of the Steam Deck, capable of 4K gaming at a steady 60 frames per second. Accompanying it were a new Steam controller, because the first one was so intuitively loved, and something called the Steam Frame, a standalone VR headset that sounded suspiciously like Valve's attempt to remind everyone it once dabbled in virtual reality. The initial reaction was, predictably, a mixture of cautious excitement and weary déjà vu. Gamers who had grown up nursing grudges against the PlayStation and Xbox monopoly dared to dream of a third way. Analysts nodded sagely and muttered about disruption. Social media filled with renderings, speculation, and the usual memes about Valve Time, that charming phenomenon whereby release dates are treated as gentle suggestions rather than firm commitments. And then, like a plot twist no one saw coming, except everyone who's been paying attention to the semiconductor market, reality intervened. The global memory shortage, that persistent headache that began as a COVID-era inconvenience and has since mutated into an AI-fueled catastrophe, decided 2026 would be its year to truly shine. It turns out that training ever larger language models and building hyperscale data centers requires rather a lot of DRAM. Who could have foreseen that the same chips needed for gaming PCs, handhelds, and consoles would be in short supply when every tech giant is racing to corner the AI market? Certainly not the poor souls trying to manufacture consumer electronics, apparently. The fallout has been delightfully chaotic. Nvidia, never one to miss an opportunity to disappoint gamers, quietly informed the world that it would not, in fact, be releasing a new gaming GPU in 2026, the first such gap in 3 decades. Prices for existing DDR5 memory and SSDs have continued their upward trajectory, with industry watchers predicting that high-end gaming rigs will soon require a second mortgage. And in the midst of this, Valve has found itself obliged to issue the sort of statement that no marketing department ever wants to write. The Steam machine, we are assured, remains on track for a release in the first half of 2026. A delay has not been announced, per se, merely a postponement of any actual pricing information or firm launch dates. The company is reconsidering costs in light of the critical component shortage, which is corporate speak for everything is more expensive than we hoped, and we're not quite sure what to do about it. There is, naturally, the possibility of a price increase. How terribly unexpected. Meanwhile, the Steam Deck, Valve's one unquestioned hardware success story, has vanished from shelves across North America, Asia, and parts of Europe. All models, including the now discontinued LCD versions, are listed as out of stock. One might almost suspect that the same memory crunch is to blame, though Valve has maintained a dignified silence on the matter. Gamers hoping to pick up a handheld for the spring sales are instead refreshing store pages with the grim determination of Victorian suitors awaiting a favorable reply. Industry analysts, never short of an opinion, have lined up to offer their measured takes. Some point out that the Steam machine's proposed specifications, high-end AMD silicon paired with generous RAM and storage, make it particularly vulnerable to the current crisis. Others note the delicious irony of a device intended to challenge closed consoles being hampered by the very open market forces that PCs are meant to celebrate. One particularly droll commentator suggested that Valve might consider shipping the Steam machine with 8 GB of RAM and a polite note apologizing for the inconvenience, as a tribute to the PlayStation 3 era. There is, of course, historical precedent. The original Steam machine suffered from a fatal combination of high prices, confusing branding, and a distinct lack of urgency from Valve itself. Partners scattered, interest waned, and the project faded into obscurity alongside the Steam controller's asymmetrical trackpads. One might have thought that lesson learned. Yet here we are, watching a sequel unfold with many of the same plot points, ambitious hardware, enthusiastic announcement, followed by the slow creep of delay and compromise. To be fair to Valve, the company is not alone in its predicament. The entire gaming hardware ecosystem is feeling the squeeze. Nintendo's shares took a tumble earlier this month amid concerns over component availability for its next console. PC builders are hoarding older DDR4 modules like Cold War civilians stockpiling tinned goods. Even the usually unflappable custom PC market is seeing lead times stretch and prices climb. Yet there is something uniquely poignant about the Steam machine's plight. It was meant to be Valve's triumphant return to living room dominance, a device that combined the flexibility of a PC with the simplicity of a console, running a Linux-based OS that would finally make Steam the center of the gaming universe. Instead, it risks becoming a symbol of the industry's current fragility, a powerful machine potentially hobbled before it even ships, priced out of reach by forces entirely beyond Valve's control. Gamers, ever optimistic, continue to speculate. Perhaps Valve will absorb the cost increases and launch at the originally suggested price points. Perhaps a stripped-down model will appear first, with upgrades to follow. Perhaps the company will simply delay until 2027 and hope the market sorts itself out. In the meantime, forums buzz with theories, Reddit threads multiply, and the occasional brave soul suggests that maybe, just maybe, we should all catch up on our backlogs instead of fixating on new hardware. As winter gives way to spring, the great question hanging over the industry remains unanswered. Will the Steam machine arrive in 2026, and if so, in what form? Will it be the revolutionary device promised, or a compromised shadow of its announced self? Will prices remain reasonable, or will we all be asked to pay a premium for the privilege of waiting? One thing is certain, in the grand tradition of Valve hardware projects, the journey will be anything but straightforward. And in these uncertain times, with chips in short supply and AI gobbling up the world's memory, perhaps a little uncertainty is the most honest thing the industry can offer. After all, who among us hasn't learned to temper expectation with a healthy dose of skepticism? The Steam machine may yet prove a triumph. Or it may join its predecessor in the annals of noble failure. Either way, the gaming public will watch, wallets nervously in hand, with that peculiar mixture of hope and resignation that only true enthusiasts can muster. Here's to 2026, may it bring us the hardware we deserve, if not the hardware we were promised. This is your humble servant the Nerd Reaper, and I put the grim gaming takes in the bag.